What's up, guys? I was asked to do a video on hard use knives. Now I've got to make a little caveat statement on this. Any knife that is in my pocket is subject to hard use. If I've got a knife and I've got to make a cut, I don't care what knife I have, I'm going to use it. These particular models are just a few that I use on a consistent basis at work. I made a quick video showing some of the tasks I do. I will show it here. That cable that I'm stripping comes in different sizes, from 500 diameter all the way up to 875 diameter, and we've got even larger stuff than that, although we rarely use it. That outer black shielding has a metal shielding directly underneath it. So when I first make my initial cut, stripping that stuff off, without a doubt I'm going to come into contact with metal. Bending, deformation of the edge, chipping, all this stuff occurs. It's just commonplace. Most of my edges are lucky to last a week. I've had a couple exceptions to that, and Maximate being one of them. It's just hard, dirty use of a knife, but it's got to be done. So without further ado, Protect Strider PT. The first couple weeks I got this knife, I ran it at work and I ran it hard. You can see quite a few of the battle scars still on the blade. It's 154 cm steel. This stuff did absolutely fantastic. If I've got this knife in my pocket and I'm at work, I will never feel undergunned. This knife performs, and it performs well. That finger choil and the handle just make this thing want to work. It's, in my opinion, it is fantastic. Spyderco Manix 2 and Maximate. I've patinaed my blade, that's why it's this dark color. Like my PT Strider, it's got a ton of battle scars. As I was saying, this knife held its edge for weeks at a time without needing to be resharpened. Maximate is some truly special stuff. I've never had a big affinity towards the super steels. I always thought they were kind of gimmicky and just a ploy to sell knives, but this stuff has made me a firm believer. If you know how to sharpen, I highly recommend this knife. I highly recommend any knife in Maximate steel done by Spyderco. Benchmade Rift Auto. Now this knife I have used at work. I have stripped cable, but I've never put it through the paces that all of these others have gone through. So my blade isn't quite as damaged as the rest, but it's got a few little wear marks. I use this knife more for cutting shrink tubing, cutting into packaging, cutting cardboard, that sort of task, and it does really well. Again, 154 cm steel. I've got no issues with this. With that steel, it's perfectly capable. Takes a fantastic edge and isn't hard to sharpen. SOCOM Elite Marfione Custom. When I purchased this knife, the SOCOM Elites had not been announced as coming back yet. All they had were custom models, and to get one, I bought this fully with the intention of using it, and that's exactly what I've done. This is M390. I've been slowly putting a finger choil in. I do a little bit at a time. I've not been in any sort of rush. I still use this knife at work, and what's there has been perfectly functional, but I do want to extend it out some more. But I'm doing it slow, because you can take away steel, you can't add it back. G&G Hawk mud, the collar and the pivot are completely sealed, so you can get mud, gunk, and dirt inside there, and it'll never affect the action. This knife has been with me working on 2 months now. I've only had to sharpen it one time, and it still had a working edge on it. This 20 CV has held up extremely well. Not as well as Maximate, but I've got zero complaints with this stuff. The only problem I have is the spring action is a little weak. I wish that came out with a little more authority. My last two knives are kind of honorable mentions. I've just got a standard Stanley box cutter. I've been using this blade for about 4 months now. Whenever it starts to go dull, I just sharpen it. I have not changed it out. I have switched sides, flipped it around, but I have not switched blades. These things are extremely thin. They're extremely easy to sharpen. They take all of 30 seconds. Just a quick 5 or 6 strokes on one side, 5 or 6 strokes on the other, and then some deburring passes and you're ready to go. Whenever I make a cut that I don't want to use one of these knives for, where I know for a fact I'm going to hit metal or it's going to chip the blade or something is going to seriously damage it, I'll either pull that Stanley out or I'll pull this out. This is my Klein Tools Lyman knife. I have no clue what kind of steel this is. It doesn't hold an edge, but it's very easy to sharpen. It's very gummy, very soft. As long as it's got a working edge, it does what I need it to do. But the best part is it's got a flat head, and when I'm stripping that cable, I leave 2 flaps on the side, and to peel that off, this flat comes in very handy. You wedge it in that black metal shielding, and then you can peel it back, and without having a tip, it doesn't pierce through. Well guys, there it is. These are, as I said, just a small batch of my knives that I use pretty hard on a regular basis. Again, if it's in my pocket, it's going to be subject to use. If you guys have any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one.